Greetings, people of Earth and beyond. How are you today? My name is Chris. I wanted to start this new little reaction channel where basically I just have the first video is Christian talks to a monk. It's called Street Convo. It's by an apologeticist. His name is Preston Perry. It was recorded about a year ago, about 6 months ago actually. It's pretty recent, but I had some thoughts as a Christian myself. And I wanted to make this new channel where I kind of just talk either to other YouTube Christian channels or just about other YouTube Christian channels. I just kind of want to put my 2 cents on some things I've seen. You know, it has about 40,000 views, but it means not everybody has seen it. So I kind of want to put it out. It's not my video, obviously, but I had some comments on it. I wanted to do video commentary with the green screen. I'll put myself in the back. So basically, I'm just going to pause and play it as I have things to say, and I'm just gonna make a video. This should be for my God and Ganja channel. I don't know, I just thought it was cool because he was talking to a monk. And so for me, I've been hearing about monks and Buddhists and Hindus and different types of the way they believe, right? Because it's not enough to just know that we believe different things, but I feel like it's our jobs, if we're going to do apologetics especially, I feel like it's our jobs to understand the people we're speaking to as much as we're trying to be understood, right? In a way. So I feel like this guy, Preston, kind of didn't really, I'm not trying to critique his apologetics or anything, but I feel like he went in with a bias and didn't really let go of his bias to communicate to these people. I think it's one guy, but there's 2 monks there, and he's kind of going back and forth with both of them. I've already seen the video once or twice, but basically, for God and Ganja, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have some form of marijuana. This is a Steezy wax pen, and I'm just gonna hit it as we go throughout the video, just whatever. This is kind of my way of making this a little bit more entertaining for you, a little bit more entertaining for me, and a way to make it about ganja. Basically, I want to talk about Christianity and weed on this channel, and so this is both in the same one, kind of, but not really. It's not really about weed, the video I'm talking about, but I am high while watching the video, so that's kind of the idea. And I just want to have commentary. I just want to be able to react to it, watch it, make a little video, and then hopefully start up a new discussion on this topic. So without the further ado, hopefully that clears up what I'm trying to do. I'm gonna take a blinker on this real quick just so I can get my head going. And essentially, I want to showcase what this does for me, how I use it, and how I don't really feel like it's not Christian to do it. So basically, I want to speak to Christians about this and about other things. Maybe I'll get to talk to Preston. Preston seems like a cool guy. I've heard of his wife already, before. It's kind of funny, Trip Lee was talking about his wife's book, and then years later I end up finding him as an apologeticist because I was looking into Christianity and monks. See, so that's how I feel like it all comes full circle. I feel like that has a lot to do with monks, a lot to do with weed. There's this full circle idea of yin and yang and all that. We could get into it, but let's get into the video first. Also,
what's up, y'all? This is another episode of Street Convos with Preston Perry, where we live and love truth. Let's get right into it.
Even though he submits perfectly to the will of the Father, that does not mean that the Father is more God than him.
God cares about the posture of our hearts when we do apologetics, but he also cares about how we treat people when we do apologetics.
Have you mistaken being woke with hatred?
I like that part.
So in this episode, I talked to a couple of monks. And so I've noticed that monks in this area that I often minister at and shop at and eat at and, have been gaining traction. And not just monks, but any religion that kind of preaches this message that you can search many different avenues to get to God. And
all right. As far as I remember, and I haven't seen this in a minute, I don't think that's what the monks tell him, that you can search many avenues to get to God. I don't think that's what they were defending about what they believe to him. That might be a separate Buddhist belief, that there are many ways to get to the creator, right? I don't know how they would even define a creator or an outside source, but I know what he's talking about. I feel like they got caught up on rhetoric, just words, and mainly him, because the other guy was trying to make analogies to kind of bridge the gap, I guess you could say. But I think this is the main part that he was thinking about. It's like, you can't have people believing that Jesus isn't the way, the truth, and the life. So if these people believe that, and they're preaching that, or, you know, teaching that, or making other people think that, then that's where him as a Christian would kind of like want to step in, or want to kind of guide you towards the Creator, towards Jesus. I could see the desire to go towards Jesus, but I don't know if that's what they believe. When I've looked into Buddhism, I haven't and I haven't looked into much, but I feel like I know more of what they're talking about than what he's talking about, even though I'm a Christian. So that's kind of fun.
I think one of the reasons why is because, I think one of the reasons why that message or messages like that are so appealing to people, because it doesn't allow people to commit to one thing, right? It doesn't allow people to have one authoritative God to answer to. And I think, man, in a lot of ways, people just want to be free. And sometimes the devil and society and culture would tell us, man, you know, believing in a particular God is slavery. It isn't freedom, which is so far from the truth. So essentially what monks are claiming is that we can take from so many different type of worldviews that we don't have to ascribe to one particular God, but we can pull from many different religions to understand the person of God. And so, man, I that's something that I obviously disagree with. We didn't get the chance to like dig into that. But one of the things that I did ask him is that another thing that they teach out here that I feel like is appealing to a lot of people who hear their message is that we are in a lot of ways powerful in the same way God is powerful. But at the same time, they claim that God is the creator.
So he just said that they claim that God is the creator, but they also claim that we have power like God. But if they believe God is the creator, then the only way you have it's like the idea of the verse, I can do all things through Christ. You can do all things through Christ, or Christ will do all things through you. You know what I mean? Like, you're not doing the thing. So I think it's wording. It's the way you're trying to tell them information, and they're trying to tell you information. You guys aren't translating the information enough so that each other could understand it. I feel like it was a miscommunication, not a difference in belief. Maybe, I don't know.
And someone that we should acknowledge and honor, right? But they claim that we are eternal in the same way God is eternal.
Okay, I remember this part. They say the soul is eternal because obviously this body goes away. They say the soul within this body, or whatever consciousness that we are aware of, right? When I say I went to the store, it's like, who, me? No, my body went in the car. But there's like a soul attached to the idea of me, that when this body goes away, so does the soul. It goes back to God. I think that's what the Buddhist was trying to describe. I just don't think he was ready to hear the same way. I feel like he was kind of ready to correct in a way, ready to like point out the flaw within their mindset, which is good. You know, you gotta like sharpen each other either way. But I remember it was about the soul, not this dies, and they believe that too. But the soul within this is eternal, and I think we believe
that. I was trying to ask them is that if we are eternal, like God is eternal, essentially, what makes us distinct from God?
So I remember this. They say God is big, we are little. And not as simple as that sounds, but there is no comparison because of how it's like the sun versus the earth. You could put like 300 earths in the sun or whatever, a bunch of earths. Like, earth is a big giant place. You could put a bunch of earths in the sun. I'll put the link of like how many earths can go in the sun. I'll put info.
When you look at the monk faith, one of the things that they're doing is consistently pointing you to this God that you should worship. But they claim that human beings have no beginning in the same way that God has no beginning. And so my only point was...
Well, I mean, don't they have birth and death? What do you mean they claim they don't have a beginning? They claim that the soul is eternal, so therefore it has always been. But because of Christ, is the soul or the heavenly body not eternal? I don't know. See, these are my questions. These are my little, I don't know if I'm like pointing out things that don't even make sense, or if it actually makes as much sense as I feel like. You know, and I've been a Christian like my whole life. I grew up in church, and I've taught, and I went to Bible college for a little bit, and I kind of dropped out of Bible college, so it doesn't really count. But the point is, I understand what he's talking about within apologetics too, exegesis and whatnot. Yeah, I wasn't that great of a student, but I know the stuff. I know some of the stuff.
Trying to show him that, man, if that is true, if we have no beginning, that essentially makes us all powerful, because we are outside of all things that are created. And if we are outside of all things that are created, we're not limited by anything. And the only one who is not limited by anything is God. That's what makes him God.
What about Jesus? Was he limited because he was human? He was God in human flesh. I don't know.
You know, what?
All right, here we go. Sorry. I've been doing this for a second. I just got comments, man. I wish I could talk to this guy. I wish I could have been in this conversation. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to like join the conversation. Like kind of just be like right here in the corner. You know what I mean? But this is my favorite part. So hold on. Now we got this. Let's go.
What are you guys? What are you guys? Monks.
Monks, not punks.
Monks, not punks?
Yeah. I got you, brother.
See, there's two guys, but now it's just this guy. I think it's just him for the most.
Well, it's not so much a question of belief, because what these books do, you know yoga, right? You've heard the term yoga?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in these books, this is actually the original text in all varieties of yoga. So it's not necessarily belief, it's more like it's a sort of a science that you
Okay, he says it's not a belief, it's sort of a science, and then wait, sorry.
realize yourself.
A science that you can realize yourself. If you repeat what he said and you didn't realize he was a monk, but you just tried to hear what he was saying, that is not anti-Christian. Like, let's go back. Hold on.
Well, it's not so much a question of belief, because
Okay, so they don't believe. They're not in the idea that we believe in this. They're talking about we understand this. We know this.
these books do, you know yoga, right? You've heard the term yoga?
Yeah.
Yoga.
Yeah, so in these books, this is actually the original text in all varieties of yoga.
The
So it's not
variety.
necessarily belief, it's more like it's a sort of a science that you can realize yourself. It's just like if I tell you, like, if I have some food and I say it's sweet, okay, you can believe it's sweet, you can believe it's not. But when we actually like taste it, you can actually like experience yourself. So some of these books are based about that, getting to experience yourself.
Okay, right there. That's cool. Based on getting the experience yourself. Think of like the scientific method. Think of like you've probably seen a volcano, right? In a science fair, you've probably seen somebody who had one of those little chemical reaction volcanoes. That's what he's saying. Every time you put a little bit of this and a little bit of this in this cup with this stuff, it will always make this explosion. So that's science. Science is like observable reality and testable data. We can look at what you did and we can do it again, kind of. Right? That's why he's saying science, because it's not about a belief. It's not like, do you believe in ghosts? I don't know. I can never see one. Oh, well, my grandma came back as a ghost. It's like, well, that's your idea, not mine. So it's not something you can really test. He's saying this is something that if you read these books and did this stuff, you could test and see. You don't have to believe. It's scientific. I think he's trying to say it's scientific.
Actually. So okay, let me just ask you this. So one of my foundational beliefs is that the Christian God is the one and the true living God. The reason why I believe that is because I think that it's backed up by science, historical proof, and it's backed up by personal revelation and God revealing himself to the world. And so I believe that Jesus is God in flesh. Do you guys believe that? And this is me asking questions. I don't want to.
Okay, he's kind of like not drawing a wedge, but he's seeing where they differ, right? Because maybe he even didn't see too big of a difference in what they were talking about. But right here, he's saying, I believe in Jesus Christ as the Son of God. I believe God reveals himself through his creation. And I believe that Jesus came and he died for all of creation so that, eternal life can happen because of his death. So he's kind of breaking that down for this guy. And he's asking them what they believe. And I really... Hold on, let's see what they believe.
But you say what you believe out of ignorance. I want to, know your, like when you say who's the person of God, who's the person of God to you?
No, if you look on page 136, I think in this book, Science and Self-Realization, it talks exactly about that. Accepting like Christ and Krishna consciousness, accepting Christ as like the root.
But not acknowledge him as do you acknowledge him as God?
Christ and Krishna consciousness. We gotta look that up. Should we look it up right now? Let's just look it up right now. Alright, let's see. Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness. What is meant? A state of awareness in which an individual acts in complete harmony with the divine or the ultimate reality of Krishna. To act with Krishna consciousness is to free the self from the illusion that it is an individual body. It is a way to experience the bliss of one's true eternal nature. See, eternal life, eternal nature. Buddhist, Krishna consciousness. Who's Krishna? Krishna is a major deity in Hinduism. He is worshipped as the 8th avatar of Vishnu and also as the supreme god in his own right. Okay, does this have anything to do with Christ, or does it just Christ? No, am I the only one who thinks that? I just said because it says he's a supreme god in his own right. And so as a supreme god, what does it symbolize? Bliss and beauty of life, luxury, beauty and happiness. Teaches us to live our yoga, meaning to stay in union with God. See, if Jesus is the Son of God and him, God, and the Holy Spirit are a unity, a trinity, then isn't that really similar when you break down what they're talking about? If you just say Krishna consciousness, you don't know this. But if you look it up, what they're talking about, I mean, it doesn't sound like an atheist. It sounds more Christian or more believing, and then to stay in union with God. Like, it's funny how just a simple Google search can show you this too.
More of it like a son of God.
Okay, wait, let's go back.
No, if you look on page 136, I think in this Science and Self-Realization, it talks exactly about that. Accepting like Christ and Krishna consciousness, accepting Christ as like
But not acknowledge him as do you acknowledge him as God?
more of it like a son of God.
Sorry. I like that part because I didn't expect to hear a monk say that Jesus is represented in their view as the Son. I don't know if he said the Son of God or a Son of God. Either way, I think most Christians would say they believe that Jesus is the Son of God. So it's funny to hear a monk say it while a Christian guy, a Christian apologist, is talking to him about Jesus. It's almost like he already knows the gospel. You know what I mean? Like, well, not all of it, but that's a pretty big part. Believing that Jesus is the Son of God, is the Messiah, right?
Well, the Son of God. So, I don't know a lot about the monk faith. Well, I don't know a whole lot, but I do know that you guys believe that the Bible, in a lot of ways, is true, right?
Yeah, you can go through it.
Yeah.
So, it being true, and you can go through it, that might not be that he sees it as like authoritative truth, but he understands that there are good things in it.
So, but in the Bible, Jesus claims to be God. When he said that he has the power to forgive sins, when he says before Abraham was, ego eimi, which means he has no beginning, no ending. He's always existed. He's pre-existing, he's eternal. And so, like,
okay, so right here, what Preston's talking about, that's like in the beginning was the Word, right? Jesus is the Word. So the idea that Jesus before Abraham was, Jesus was, he always was, he who was and is to come.
In the monk religion, you guys don't believe that essentially, like, we were created, like you believe that you always existed.
Eternal. We just accept these bodies.
Okay, so he said, you don't believe that we were created. You believe we are eternal. We just accept these bodies. That's what he said. We just accept these bodies. So I'm kind of testing out the weed gives you short-term memory loss, because I'm pretty much remembering what they're saying. You know what I mean? Like, I'm testing it out scientifically. You can test it out too if you want to. If you're a Christian, you never tried it. I mean, as far as I know, nobody's ever overdosed on weed. So you can look into it if you would like.
So you believe that human beings have always been eternal?
Not necessarily human beings. They name the soul.
Okay, so he distinguished right there. He said, not necessarily human beings. He said the soul. The soul separate from the being. This is my body, but then there's a soul, a mind, a consciousness, a beyond body. And that's what is eternal according to the monks. That's what he's saying. He's not saying that eternalness means you're greater than God or you are God. So I think that should be clear. Because as far as I can tell, the monk hasn't said that yet.
Because even his body is changing.
Okay, he says our bodies are changing.
So what?
Like our cells, like is he talking about like body, like our cells die and regenerate, like that kind of thing? Or is he saying like, you know what I mean? Like obviously we grow older. I would like to look into that.
So if the monk believes, claims that we've always been eternal, what makes us different from the God who's always been eternal?
Well, we're small and God is big.
We are small, God is big. There's no similarity between the two. If I said, I want to give you money, right? And you go, oh, wow, I really could use some money. And then I said, you say, how much? How much money would you like to give me? And I say, I will give you one. And you're like, what? No, okay. One what? $1, $100, $1 million. None of those are the same thing, even though they're all money. Under the category of money, you could have $1, $100, or $1 million. But if I said I'll give you $1 or I'll give you $1 million, you wouldn't say, oh, that's the same. It's not. It's not even close. That is what the monk is trying to say. That if you look at God big and you look at us small, there is no comparison, even though we are both God and us. Soul, God and soul are both eternal. That's what I'm understanding. And I like this video. Like, this video is well put together, well made. They got mics somehow. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It was definitely put together well. But I kind of want to speak on behalf of the monk. You know, I haven't seen any updates to this video yet. So just with what I've learned about monk faith, and you know how he said it's not even a faith. Sorry, I keep doing this. I just want to, that's what they're saying. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to move my hands a little bit so that it doesn't just look like I'm shoulders. I guess it doesn't make a difference. Anyways, I like moving I really do talk with my hands, but this is like a weird setup. So I kind of got to like crunch down. But I did want to speak on some of the stuff I've heard about what monks think and believe.
It's the basic essence of it.
Yeah.
It's just like a gold nugget and a gold mine. What's the difference? They're the same thing, but they're not the same thing, you know?
Yes. Okay, the gold nugget, gold mine. I have a comment on this video. I think I should just read the comment. Let's just read the comment, because it should be like close. Yeah, here it is. It's probably because it's just my channel, but like, or my page, you know. All right, so I commented. I said the vault is full of gold. Full of gold. I don't know why I put it on caps. It's a vault of gold. It's a vault of gold. So, you know, you got a vault. There's a bunch of gold in there. Just lots. More than you can carry out even if you tried to take it. The gold nugget, you could take it in your hand. Nobody would even know. It is gold. They're both gold. Gold nugget. Gold bars. Many gold bars. With all the properties of gold remaining in it. But the amount of gold has drastically changed. So, one should not equate the two. They are similar, but not the same. Comparable, but not equal. The gold comes from God. There's just a difference with the amount. One is a nugget of gold. One is a vault of nuggets of gold or gold bars. See, speaking to the amount of gold and the difference in the amount of gold. You got this much gold or you got all of the gold in the world. See what I'm saying? The amount is not comparable. Oh, and I said, think like money. If I said, do you have money? And you said, yes, that may be true. If I asked, do you have a lot of money? Maybe not. So having money is different than having a lot of money. We have a life. God gives life. We contain life. God creates and sustains life. You guys were saying the same thing, just misunderstanding each other. And I put, to be honest, Preston seemed not to get the analogy. Right here, I believe, is when he seems to start not following this analogy. But this analogy is great. This really does show the difference between a single individual soul, and the thing that makes and maintains souls, right? If we know there are 8 billion people in the world, and we know all the people in the world who have ever died, who have ever lived, and who ever died also had souls, there has to be a place where they go, where souls go. So that is eternal life, if that makes sense. I think that's eternal life. That's just my perspective. So I kind of wanted to have a perspective on this from mine. I wanted to look at this from my perspective.
Well, yeah, there will be the same thing if God wasn't the creator. And so if he is the creator, how can we have always existed with God? Like, what makes God distinct? And that's one question I have for the monk religion. It's like, if you believe that human beings have always been eternal, but you accept God as the creator, how can God and human beings have always existed, right? For somebody to be creator, they would have to create things to bring those things into existence. So how can the two how can the two exist at the
Well,
same time?
so the spiritual soul is eternal, but only the material body comes into creation and is destroyed. So the spiritual soul has an eternal identity beyond this body of just humanity. But the human body, the material world, it has a creation and is
No, wait.
it comes into creation.
This is important.
So the spiritual soul has an eternal identity beyond this
That's
body
what I
of
just said.
humanity.
Identity.
But the human body, the
Not
material
just the
world,
body.
it has a creation and is and so all of this is explained in these books. Like Bhagavad Gita, it was like exclusively it's the nature of the soul, how it comes about, and its relationship with Krishna. It's a relationship.
I guess my question is, that sort of makes sense to me. I'm really trying to understand you, brother, because it's like, if God is the creator of us, are you essentially saying that God created us in the spirit, in the physical realm? We've always existed spiritually.
Spiritually, yeah.
Right.
It's only the material body. It's just like you put on a coat. You were there before you put the coat on, right? And when you take off the coat, you'll still be there. So similarly, this body is just like that.
It's like you're here. So right now I don't have a jacket. If I got up, put a jacket on, I am still here. But now I have a jacket. So he's saying the soul exists like the body with or without a jacket. And the body is just the jacket for the soul that the soul puts on to individualize itself. But the soul is eternal, external to the body. So even though the soul's in the body, once the body is no more, then the soul exits the body and goes back to eternal realm. Instead of the physical realm where there's limitation, it goes back to an eternal realm. And it always exists. It's always there. That's what he's saying. It's eternal. The soul is eternal.
The spiritual soul currently has a coat, whether it be a cat, a dog, human being, anything. And when it takes it off, it'll continue to exist. The coat is where the body is. It's happening. It's just a temporary thing. It has a beginning and it has an end.
Yeah, but when we look in the Holy Scriptures, the Bible says the only one who has a beginning and an end is the only one who doesn't have a beginning and an end is God. That's what makes him distinct from all creation. When Jesus says, "Before Abraham was, ego eimi," which means I am, that I've always existed. There is no beginning for me. There is no end. And we know that God isn't a physical being; He's a spiritual being. And so, a part of the monk religion takes from the Bible and says the Bible is good for teaching. We can learn, we can glean from it. But when we see history and God, who has established Himself in His Word, He says, "What makes me distinct from every other living being is that I'm the only one that has no beginning. I'm the only one that I have no ending, that I am eternal, that forever ago I've always existed." And so I think to acknowledge God as the creator, but then to say we've always existed along with God, what makes us different than God?
I'll tell you what, you would like this. I can give you like a small lecture, but everything you need is in these books. Because if you read a book, you can associate all
Man, here's the thing. I love talking to people. I respect that. I respect that you guys are out here on a mission, talking to people.
The thing is, you can only associate with us so much. But if you get a book, you can associate with the author of that book unlimitedly.
No book is more personal than you. I probably can't read. You don't know that, but I can talk to you. You know what I'm saying? And so if you're out here, man, with the literature, I would love for you to at least attempt to explain some of the questions that I have for you, because I just think that's dignity and respect, you know, like, because I love to talk to real people, and I think sometimes we can be so disconnected from the world around us. And I'm not trying to come at you, I'm not trying to like bash what you believe. I respect you guys. You guys out here in the hot sun laboring. You're not getting much money. That's honorable and respectable to me. You don't get any money. But yeah, he said y'all don't get any money. But I'm just saying, like, I just think that, man, conversations like this is powerful. You know what I mean? Like, as a brother who loves you, care about you, you know what I'm saying? And I believe that you care about people. That's why you're out here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would love to at least begin to wrestle with some of the questions I have for you.
As far as the
and that's the only, I'm sorry, let me cut you off. That's the only main piece that I have. When I read the monk faith, it denies Jesus as the person of Christ, but it also communicates that human beings are eternal. And I don't really see how that makes us any distinct from God. I see it with all respect.
I think Preston assumes that when he says the soul is eternal, that there's like almost an idolizing of the individual. But like there's this idea of heavenly body, right? Like when we die, we go to heaven. But when we go to heaven, our body doesn't come with us. But there is an us there, right? I go to prepare a place for you. Who is you? Buddhism, or, you know, I guess it's Buddhism. But I can't remember what book I read this in. But somewhere in the books that they have, there's this idea of consciousness and what even is consciousness and who are you? How do you function? And what makes you distinct? You know, they look to eliminate the you, actually, which is funny because that's self-sacrifice. That's what Jesus, see, that's what I'm saying. The monks have this idea that they understand consciousness as a barrier, right? Or an obstacle to overcome. You're not supposed to attach yourself to all this physicality. You're supposed to like let it go. I don't know. Hold on. Let's keep watching. Sorry,
I say it's somewhat problematic that we're pointing people to a faith that essentially says we're the same as a God. Like what's the point?
Okay, yeah, right there. Preston thinks this is like a what's it called when you make yourself God? When you become a God yourself? It's not even like that. As far as he's said so far, you know what I mean? Just based on this conversation, as far as I can tell, I think it's about to say it.
Not the same as God, just like I was saying.
It's not the same.
And a gold nugget, they're the same, but they're not the same.
Okay, right here. That's a paradox right there. That's what you call a paradox, right? It's the same, but it's not the same. And what does he mean? It's gold, 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 gold. What color is it? Gold. What is it? Gold. Where'd you get it? We mined it. How much do you have? There is the distinguishment that he's asking for, right? What makes us distinct from God? The amount of power we have access to, and then the sort, being that we don't even have access to unlimited power, right? We're a limited being. We get sick, we die, we need to eat. God is so much beyond that there is no comparison. I think that's what the monk is attempting to say right here.
Well, you can't equate the two. It's the separate and the distinct individuality. There's a verse that says, Nityu Nityananam Chitana Chitananam. Yeah, God is eternal, living beings are eternal. God has consciousness, and living beings have consciousness.
See, consciousness right there. So God is eternal, living beings are eternal. God has consciousness. Living beings have consciousness. Think of your dog. Your dog walks up to you, sits down when you tell it to sit. You know, there is a conscious communication between you and the dog. And there is a distinction because you can form language, whereas the dog just barks or growls or whines or whimpers. You know, it can communicate, but at a limited form. God is not limited.
God is maintaining all of the living beings.
But do you believe that God is all powerful?
Yes, of course.
Yes,
so
of
the
course.
only reason why God is all powerful because he exists outside of time. Right? He's not limited to time, space, and matter. Right?
See, that's what I just said in defense of what he was saying. But you just said what I said. Come on, there's more similarities than differences here.
Because he's outside of these things, that's what makes him eternal. That's what makes him powerful. He's not limited. His eternality is the only reason why he's not limited to the things around him. And so if we are also eternal, what makes us distinct from an eternal God? When you claim that you are eternal,
being capable of being eternal doesn't make you more powerful than God, because we have physical limitations immediately. I mean, literally, our eyesight doesn't even see the ultraviolet rays. We have limitations that we know of on a daily basis. God is not limited. The soul is even limited to the body until the body is decayed, you know? You guys are saying the same thing, I feel like. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an apologetics guy. Maybe I'm not a good apologetics guy. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's why I didn't pass Bible college. I did pretty good, but anyway.
What you're essentially saying is the things of this world, I'm not limited by them. And so, if I'm not limited by time, space, and matter because I'm outside of time, I'm not limited to space, I'm not limited to matter, I'm essentially claiming to be the same as God. If I'm essentially claiming to be the same as God, what is the need to point me to the God of your religion?
Well, I mean, you're not the same as God. It's just like you can't.
I know.
Hey, wait, let's go back. I need to hear what he just said, because I was about to say that too, but I like how he said, I think we're saying the same thing, but I don't think we're saying the same thing. Hold on.
And so if we are also eternal, what makes us distinct from an eternal God? When you claim that you are eternal, what you're essentially saying is the things of this world, I'm not limited by them. And so,
okay, being eternal within your soul does not mean you are not limited by the physical world that you maneuver in within conscious reality. You are limited. Even though you are individual and even though you are eternal, you are limited. And because you are limited, you are not God. And there must be something beyond you, because where does where you are come from? The eternal ether, I guess he would say. Maybe. I don't know. What would Mr. Sir? It doesn't say his name.
if I'm not limited by time, space, and matter because I'm outside of time, I'm not limited to space.
Okay, we are not outside of time. We literally have gravity. We have pinpointed GPS locations. Like, we are limited on all those points. We, as individuals, as human beings, the only thing that is eternal within the human being is the consciousness, life, placed there by God. And you can't be God if God made you. You can just be like God and be capable of dwelling with God after this is no longer here. Because there is something in here, we believe, that goes to heaven, right?
Limited to matter, I'm essentially claiming to be the same as God. If I'm essentially claiming to be the same as God, what is the need to
Okay, nobody's claiming to be the same as God. Watch, that's what he's saying.
to the God of your religion?
Well, I mean, you're not the same as God. It's just like you can't.
I know,
If
but
you had a golden,
I know you guys are.
well, you can believe, you cannot believe. But if you have a gold nugget and I have a whole gold vault, if I say, okay, exchange me, if you wanted to exchange your nugget for a whole gold vault, would that be logical?
Right there. No. Would it be logical to exchange, right? If I say, I have a gold vault, what do you have to exchange? And somebody says, I got a gold nugget. You go, the audacity that you would compare the two. No, I will not exchange with you. They're not the same. That's what he's saying.
It's not the same. It's the same, but it's not the same.
I know, I get that logic, and I get that ideology, and I think it's a fair point. But the point that I'm making is, once you claim to be eternal, you are making yourself the vault, not a gold.
Okay. So he thinks that being eternal means you are no longer limited to the body he's literally looking at. Consciousness is not limited to the body. You have astral projection. You have dreams. Dreams is like literally leaving your mind in your mind. You have imagination, which is like conscious dreaming, and then you have psychedelics and other kinds of mind alterations that can happen. Alcohol. Yeah, this is all interesting stuff to me though. Like, I would love to have a conversation with all of you guys, and you and even that guy. I don't know. It would just be fun to kind of go back and forth, you know?
Because the fact is, we're in this world and we're the same. It's the same, but it's not the same.
I know, I get that logic, and I get that ideology, and I think it's a fair point. But the point that I'm making is, once you claim to be eternal, you are making yourself the vault, not a gold nugget.
No, because the fact is, we're in this world and we're undergoing birth and death.
So with the vault and the nugget analogy, which is a really good analogy.
That's kind of trippy because I really didn't remember he did that. I know he does that, but that's funny because I'm like watching it. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I told him that's a dope analogy. He's basically saying
it really is
that God is the vault. When I asked him what makes God distinct from us if we're both eternal, what makes God distinct? And he said, well, God is distinct because he's the vault and we're the nugget. And so my question to him was, not my question to him, my statement to him was, I agree with that. You know, I agree that God is the one who holds the he's more precious than the nugget, right? He is the vault. He's the one that holds all things together. I think that's essentially what he was trying to claim. But I was letting him know that if we're claiming to be eternal, if we're claiming not to have a beginning like God, we are essentially claiming to be the vault. We are essentially claiming to be the one who holds things together.
So it's kind of an identity crisis idea. It's the idea that you can't claim to be equal with God. I mean, Jesus claimed to be equal with God, and he claimed to not consider it robbery. And then we are also made one in the image of God. And then Christianity itself is to be like Christ. So I don't know. You know, that's really interesting though.
Essentially claiming to be God if we claim that we are eternal.
And God to be like Christ And to be like Christ, Christ did not consider it robbery to be equal with God. And we should live our lives so that our lives reflect God or Jesus. We live as images of God and we follow Jesus's physical example, kind of, right?
What makes God is his transcendence, him being eternal, him having no beginning, his ending doesn't exist. And so that's one of the questions that I had for him. And I don't think he really answered it, but yeah, we're gonna have more conversations. They actually text me like as soon as I left. They want me to come down to the temple and have conversations with them. And they said,
I wonder if he ever did this.
And, do some, conversations with them on camera. And so when I have more conversations with them, I'll keep you guys posted. But yeah, if you see monks in your neighborhood, reach out to them.
No.
So let's do the karma. So anyway, I'll tell you this. We have a temple right down the street. If you want to, you can come on Sunday. You can ask all these questions. Recently, we're out here trying to do outreach in this.
Are you wearing an Ice Cube t-shirt?
Yeah.
Well,
I respect you.
We
I'm sorry.
discuss
I would love to come. I would love to come. I'll say this, and I'm getting the feel that you want to kind of kick me out of here real quick.
No. What we usually get, we have experience often that there are many Christians here in Atlanta, southern parts. So we get many
I'm from Chicago.
Are you from Chicago?
Yeah.
I spent some time near West Loop, actually.
Oh, West Loop.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, we have the experience. A lot of Christians come, ask a bunch of questions, and then just say you're going to go to LDS.
I'll just say this. I love that analogy that you just gave. It was a really good analogy. I'm not claiming to be the vote or the gold nugget inside the vote. I believe that God is the vote.
Nobody's claiming to be a vault or claiming to be the nugget. The idea isn't that we are either a vault or a nugget. Sorry, I did the wrong sign. But you know what I mean? The idea is not that you are either one. The idea is that they are the same, but not the same. That they are both gold, but they are not the same amount of gold. And the difference in the amount of gold is the distinguishment of what is what. One is an individual soul that will go back into eternity as soon as the body dies. One is like he said, an outside of time being that created this being on this earth, within this galaxy, etc. This one holds that within its palm. And they believe Buddha does that. You got to look up the Monkey King. Interesting stuff.
That holds all precious things, right? That he is the main thing. But I don't know if you got my point, but my only point was communicating that what makes God the vote, right, is that he is eternal. He is not limited.
So gold is the not the distinguishment. God is not the vault. God is the amount of gold. It's like an ocean and a cup of water. They're not the same. You could say they're both water. They are both eternal. They are not the same thing. That's what the monk's point was. And I really don't know if he understood it even after he kind of reflected on it.
The reason why he is God, he is outside of all the things that he created. When we claim to be eternal, which the monk religion does, I just have some honest questions for you guys. Not trying to attack. When you claim to be eternal,
just like I'm saying,
you're essentially claiming
eternality is a quality, not quantity.
There. A quality, not a quantity. Did you hear that?
You have knowledge, but you may not be unlimitedly knowledge.
No. But when you're eternal, the only way to be eternal is to be outside of the.
Let's go back. Sorry.
When you claim to be eternal,
just like I'm saying,
you're essentially claiming
eternality is a quality, not quantity.
To be eternal is a quality of you, not an amount that you have.
Just like you have knowledge, but you may not be unlimitedly knowledge.
Yeah. So you can have knowledge, but you cannot have all the knowledge. You don't have all the knowledge.
No. But when you're eternal, the only way to be eternal is to be outside of created things. When you are outside of created things, there's no way for you to be limited.
Okay. The only way to be eternal is to be outside of a physical thing. I'm physical, you're physical, he's physical. The only thing that would be non-physical or spiritual would be the soul. And that could be eternal or is eternal. And it's the only way we live here, right? Or no?
Makes God. He is not limited by gravity. He created gravity because he is outside of gravity. He created it. He's not limited by time. He's outside of time. He's He's not limited by matter. He's not limited. He's not limited by the space. He's not limited. That's what makes him all-knowing, and so that's what makes him the creator. He created all things that exist within these restrictions. Right? It's not even mere a mere opinion. It's more of a philosophical representation of your worldview. And so when we claim to be eternal, we're essentially claiming the same as God. In a loving way, it's a contradiction. And I think
the body is not eternal no matter what. We are limited to the body even if we are eternal. To be limited is not to be God.
I don't even want to say the Christian faith. I think the Holy Bible gives us a meaningful justification of how we as a creator ought to submit to the one who came to reveal himself in the person of Christ. He who says, this God who is outside time, space, and matter, he created a creation to live in this world, and I come to be the physical representation of God, to reveal God to created beings like me and you. And so I think that's the crosswords.
Come on Sunday, we can talk.
Okay.
Well, I'll take your number down.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Can I? Where is this at?
Here, you can keep it for
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
You gonna invite me for real?
Yeah.
I'm gonna come.
We send out a text like every week. Our tempo is right down there.
Man, I really appreciate you talking to me, man. My name's Preston.
My name's Mr. Vaughn.
That's a cool name. All right. So I think I made my point. I think I said what I commented like 3 or 4 times. This has been an episode of reactions. I don't even know what to call it. I just want to react to stuff while I hit a little bit of marijuana. And I'll call it something on the Garing Ganja channel. Alright, thank you for watching. Thank you if Preston, if you see this. It's not a critique on you or who you are or what you've done. It's just maybe a pushback, I guess you could say, on what the monk was saying. And maybe you could clear up what you think if this makes any sense. But that's it. Have a good one.